It is do or die time when it comes to fantasy football. Week 10 is fast approaching, and oh my god, fantasy playoffs are on the horizon. 10 waiver claims in this video, 3 running back handcuffs that you should be stashing, and a bunch of players that you should be dropping. We're going to rattle through it quite quickly, give you all the information you need to get ahead of the competition in your league. Let's get into it. I'm Tom Strachan, this is Fantasy Sanctuary. Quentin Johnston, 16% rostered on Yahoo leagues, has missed the last 2 games through injury before coming back. The Chargers were a more pass-heavy team now. They're second in pass rate over expected over the last month. Justin Herbert's been throwing the ball at least 27 pass attempts in the last 5 games. You compare that to the start of the season. Justin Herbert was clearly dealing with the injury that he suffered in preseason, and now it's benefiting everyone in the passing game. Quentin Johnston's had target shares of 18% or higher in 4 of the 6 games he's played, got 4 touchdowns on the year, clearly has Justin Herbert's trust. We play the Titans, the Bengals, and the Ravens over the coming weeks. Look, if you need somebody, whether it's for bye week cover or for additional wide receiver depth, Quentin Johnston is a really decent player to go and pick up. I would be happy to spend sort of around 10% of your fab budget on him. Xavier Legette, slightly more rostered at 27%. Adam Thielen's rumored to be a potential trade candidate. There's a bit of a rumor out there. That's why he was held out of the game this weekend. But it doesn't really matter because Xavier Legette is just better than Adam Thielen at this point in Thielen's career. Legette's been a top 36 wide receiver in 4 of the last 6 games. And what's been really encouraging is that since Bryce Young came back into the lineup, Legette's been consistent. He's had 13 PPR points in both those games with Bryce Young. He's led the team in target share for those 2 games. They face the New York Giants this week before a bye week. So it's going to be tricky. Like, you are looking at potentially having to sit him 2 weeks from now. But I would be completely fine going and spending 7 to 10% of your waiver budget on Xavier Legette. We'll get to the next player, but first, hit the subscribe button. We do DFS, we do Best Ball, we do Dynasty, and we do Redraft. We are here all year round helping you win your fantasy leagues. Let's get on to the next player. Demario Douglas, 22% rostered. I mean, we talked about Demario Douglas a few weeks ago. Everybody wanted him. Then he got ill in London when he was on the trip over to play the Jags. Everybody lost interest because he was out there and he goose-egged, and he probably harmed your fantasy team that week. There's no bones about it. But Demario Douglas led the team with a 22% target share this week against the Titans. That's his 4th game with a 22% or higher target share this year. So 4 games with 6+ receptions. And with Drake Maye on the roster, everything is just so much more positive. They've got the Bears, the Rams, the Dolphins, and Colts on tap. Plenty of those games could set up well for Demario Douglas to PPR scam his way through them. And he is just the only reliable wide receiver that the Patriots have right now. We'll go to Demarcus Robinson next. 5 touchdowns this year, 4 in the last 2 games. He plays in all the 3 wide receiver sets now that Nakua and Cooper Kupp are back. He is the clear 3rd wide receiver. Matthew Stafford trusts him. Last year, when both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua were healthy, down the stretch, Demarcus Robinson was scoring like 12 PPR points per game on average and was absolutely crushing it. He is an integral part of what the Rams do, and I don't think they're going to go away from him anytime soon. 1% rostered, Nick Westbrook-Ihkine. Like, this is probably getting a little bit deeper, but look, you have to pay attention to a guy who's got 4 touchdowns in the last 4 games. DeAndre Hopkins being gone has completely opened up things for Nick Westbrook-Ihkine to play more snaps than he was doing previously. Tyler Boyd had 0 targets in week 9. He just hasn't done much at all this year. He really looks kind of past it. Westbrook-Ihkine is more dynamic than Tyler Boyd. He's always going to be probably behind Calvin Ridley in target share. But they don't seem to like the tight ends they've got there. And Mason Rudolph, he's going to probably keep this job because he's been doing a good job out there. And Will Levis, I mean, it kind of looks over for him. Drake Maye, 11% rostered. Like, you just simply have to be rostering this guy at this point. He's at over 38 rushing yards in 3 of 4 starts. And when it comes to dual threats, if you're averaging over a 35 rushing yards per game, that really unlocks your ceiling to be able to hit those top 5 outcomes so much more regularly. Yes, it's not quite happening for Drake Maye yet, but as he gets more comfortable, as he gets more experience under his belt, I truly believe that Drake Maye is capable of league-winning performances down the stretch. He's got a bye in week 14, but there are plenty of fun games around that, and I think that Drake Maye should be rostered everywhere. Mason Rudolph, this one's a bit of a deeper league. You know, perhaps you just need bye week cover. Perhaps you're just looking for someone to stash, or perhaps you're talking super flex and he's worth going and trading for. But Mason Rudolph has been the QB 20, QB 13, and this week, pending Monday Night Football, is QB 14. Particularly worthwhile for those super flex formats. But it is a tough matchup with the Chargers next week. But look at what he's doing. He's getting the job done. He's getting touchdowns out there, and he's not turning the ball over in horrendous fashion like Will Levis does. I think Mason Rudolph probably keeps his job for the rest of the season. Keaton Mitchell, 10% rostered. Mitchell averaged 8.4 yards per attempt on 47 carries last year, as well as averaging 10.3 yards per catch. He suffered a clean ACL tear, which we know is more akin to like what Breece Hall suffered last year, rather than like the Javonte Williams, J.K. Dobbins injuries that were really disruptive to their careers. Keaton Mitchell's a month ahead of schedule. They're bringing him off IR this week before the game against the Bengals. And yes, he is going to share work because Justice Hill has been impressive. But the amount of games which Keaton Mitchell can just change on a dime, he's so explosive, and we want access to teams who can regularly score 30 plus points in any game. So I'd be happy taking Keaton Mitchell, stashing him, and see what happens. You made it this far in the video, hit the subscribe button. We've got a bunch more players. We've got some running back handcuffs to stash, and we've also got some players to drop. Hit that subscribe button. Let me know who you're getting this week. Mike Gesicki, 13% rostered. Talked about it last week on the weekly preview show. Go back and check it out if you don't believe us. But Mike Gesicki's splits without T. Higgins are absurd. He now has 27 targets, 22 catches, 281 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the games that T. Higgins has missed this year. Eric Hall sadly suffered an ACL injury, his second ACL injury in the last couple of years. And it looks like Mike Gesicki is now going to have a chance to be out there for a huge amount of snaps every week. The Bengals, their poor pass defense, it's going to keep them passing the ball plenty, and that's going to benefit Mike Gesicki. Jalen Tolbert. Jalen Tolbert is 23% rostered. We saw yesterday CeeDee Lamb dealing with a shoulder injury. A bunch of medical experts suggest that he could potentially be able to play for it, maybe miss a week or two. Brandon Cooks is still on injured reserve with a knee issue, and Tolbert has just established himself behind CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson as the clear number 3 pass catching option. So if either of them misses time, it's really going to open up stuff for him. The Cowboys running game, it's bad. They just can't run the ball particularly well at the minute. They have to pass. We know that Dak, when he's healthy, is better at passing the ball than perhaps a good chunk of the quarterbacks in this league. Tolbert's had 4 double-digit PPR games this year, plays the Eagles, Texans, and Commanders over the next few weeks. He's somebody that I'd be happy to stash and just look to for bye week cover and depth if needed. We'll get to drops now. Man, there are plenty of players who I'd be willing to drop at this time of year. Devin Singletary, it looks like he's lost his job to Tyrone Tracy. He's going to get a few carries a week, but probably not high enough volume that you're confident to ever start him. Zeke Elliott, healthy scratch for disciplinary reasons this week, and he just looks washed. Jermaine Burton, healthy scratch for disciplinary reasons this week. I don't think you come back from that anytime soon. His opportunity was when T. Higgins wasn't there, and now he's wasted it. Colby Parkinson with Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp out there. I don't think that Colby Parkinson is going to see enough volume to ever be a worthwhile start. You're basically just hoping for touchdowns, and his floor is absolute zeros. Antonio Gibson seems to have lost a decent amount of work over the last few weeks. I think that this team seems quite happy with what Ramondre Stevenson's given them now that he's stopped fumbling as often. So I would be happy to drop Antonio Gibson unless you really want to keep him as a running back handcuff for Ramondre. And then Cole Kmet. I mean, Cole Kmet, I've ragged on him plenty over the years, but these are his tight end finishes this year. Tight end 48, 17, 2. 21, 21, 1, 38. And then he goes out and goose eggs this week. 0 targets. Cole Kmet is just not somebody you want to be dealing with when you're making start-sit decisions every week. Running backs that you should be stashing. Let's talk about these guys because there are some fun names here. And you can throw Keaton Mitchell in here as well. But Jalen Wright looks really explosive on the ground game. Raheem Mostert fumbled yesterday. It feels like Jalen Wright is going to see more and more touches as the season wears on, particularly if the Dolphins end up out of everything and they have to see what they've got in Wright before next year. Trey Benson, James Conner continuously gets banged up. He hasn't missed much time yet, but he seems to leave games over time because he is getting more and more banged up, and we know that's been a problem for him throughout his career. Trey Benson had 837 against the Bears, including his first NFL touchdown, also with 18 receiving yards. He is not a non-entity in the receiving game. Anything happens to James Conner, Trey Benson could be a league winner. And then lastly, Ray Davis, double-digit PPR games in 3 of the last 4, 2 over 17 PPR points in that spell. He's rushed for over 4.8 yards per carry in each of the last 4 games, 2 games with over 50 receiving yards as well. Ray Davis might just be the better back than James Cook. He's absolutely somebody I'd be looking to grab, particularly if you're in a keeper league and you look towards next year, then Ray Davis feels like he could be a real value there. That is your week 10 waiver video. Everything you need to know. Drop your questions below and I promise you we get back to every single comment on this channel and we will make sure we set you up to win big in 2024.